We'll start at the beginning of the month. And we're with Julie Weisler. Weisler. Weisler.
Reisler, you got it. You
Weisler.
got
I
it.
got it on the
Yeah.
second attempt, and then I
Yeah.
second guessed myself. The good
All
thing is,
good.
I normally only have to say it once,
There you
and then
go.
we're good to go. Um, you know, one of my favorite things in reaching out to Course in Miracles students, teachers, is the great prayer, I'm only here to be truly helpful.
Yeah.
Whenever I reach out, almost inevitably, I get this enthusiastic response of, yes, I would love to talk anything A Course in Miracles. And your response was so full of enthusiasm and full of love. Um, there was no hesitation, and I love it. I want to thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. I love these conversations, and I love what you're doing. I think it's so important.
Thank
Yeah.
you. And you really are truly helpful. Um, anyone who spends any time on your YouTube channel, on your podcast, um, absolutely sees with certainty what you're doing, and that you have, um, just call it, in course language, your special function, and you're performing it.
Mm, thank you. I that's my aim each day, right? To listen, to connect to that. What's the way to serve, to be truly helpful today? I love that as kind of the North Star, the compass. So
Right.
yes.
So when were you aware that this was your special function?
That's a great question. So, good question. Thank you. I'm like, woo, that goes back. I would say that I have always been high empath. I've always felt people's feelings and energy and struggled a lot to kind of learn how to moderate my own for a long time. I did a lot of different kinds of inner work. And really coming from that place of learning how to love yourself, right? And so I think truly the shift, because the jobs that I had before I started this work were always to be helpful. I actually think if you really look at any job or anything we're doing, it can have that lens of being helpful. Um, for me, it was about 15 years ago. I really just had a moment of clarity. It was not an easy moment of clarity. It was just an awareness that the life I was in, it wasn't exactly set up or aligned for now I can see where I am today and where I'm going. And so that was not easy. I had two young kids, married to someone else at the time, going just had a health crisis, like a lot of tough moments. And I think what happened was that was one of those pivotal moments where I heard, you could call it the Holy Spirit, you could call it your intuition, guidance, inner being. Like I kind of use those words interchangeably, but I
Right.
definitely had this knowing and connection. And I heard from some very wise voice that while it sounded like mine, it didn't sound like mine. And it really said, it is time for you to go in a new direction. Like it's time. And I knew it intuitively. It was a big deal to do that. And I think once I really tried to do that as lovingly as possible, that meant, ending a relationship, a marriage, and moving and going back to school, and then eventually starting my own career. I just kept getting more and more insights dropped in where it was, do this, right? Go start this business, go write this book, start a podcast, start do this work in the world because it's going to help people. And for me, my intention has always been, how can I hear that voice more? The voice for God, right? The voice for
Right.
God. And how can I hear that daily and in everything I do? Because I started to realize anytime I listen, even when it might feel a little scary after I really took it in, it's always led to this win-win-win of just being of service. So I would say for the last 15 years or so, it's been my guidance system, and having this business for 12 years and the work I'm doing, that's how I make my decisions. That's how I decide what to do. This conversation, it was a no brainer. It was like, absolutely, this is going to be helpful. So that is always the question, Eric, I'm asking is this going to serve? Because if it's not, then I don't want to say it or talk about it.
Right.
I just don't.
I'm glad you said the voice for God,
Mhm.
because I've told this before. Forever, I I've been reading, studying, of course, miracles for 30 years, a little bit more. Um, and maybe it's my Catholic upbringing. I switched it around in my mind, the voice of God. And that's a very subtle difference. There's nothing wrong with listening to the voice of God, but it seems outside,
Yeah.
like you're listening something distant, receiving some type of outer guidance. But when you get that voice for God, and you realize that the voice of God is within you, everything seems different.
I love that distinction. It's interesting. I was wearing this shirt today. I just literally, this was a phrase that came to me a couple years ago, and I was talking to someone who does a lot of speaking around the world. It's just very tapped in soul, and she's like, "That's your book. You got to do something with that." I thought, "Oh, okay," and I just kept getting this message, Julie, do something. So I was like, I'm going to create merchandise. I want to wear it because I want to remind people you're divine by design. That means to me, the divinity, the divine God literally is in each of us, is you, is me. There is nothing of you, I believe, that isn't that. And that voice, that is not, it's not outside of us. We all have
Right.
access. We all have a free all access pass. It's like the best show in the world. We all have the VIP ticket, but do you know you have that ticket? That's the question.
And probably most of us don't.
Right. That's
I
right.
think even picking up the course, it takes some convincing. You might have an inkling that there is something within us.
Yeah,
And, you talked about all of us having that divinity within. That's what makes true forgiveness possible, right?
absolutely. And of course, knowing that for yourself, knowing that for every single person, no matter what they're saying, it's either right, there's love or it's a cry for love. I love that. Like those two distinctions. And it helps to boil it down when I see somebody acting out. And boy, do we have a lot of examples of that.
We do.
A lot of acting out. And by the way, there are times when I've acted, there's a cry for love. I felt that. And can I look at myself through the eyes of God, of the divine, of the Holy Spirit? Again, different wording depending on what resonates. I love thinking about it as, can I see myself through the eyes of God? Can I speak to myself through the voice for God? Can I see that in others and not rush to judgment, which of course always leads down a path
Right.
that is not where we want to go.
That's a great insight that you just offered. And I think even on the path for a long time, we might miss it. Our own cry for help. We get pretty good after a few years of seeing the cry for help from other people. But maybe for some of us, it takes longer to recognize when we're acting out, when we're literally crying for help,
Yeah.
um, and we push it aside. We put on that stoic, um, I'm going to grit my teeth and work my way through it, instead of, as the Course says, everything is turned over to the Holy Spirit. Everything,
Yeah.
or every thought.
Exactly. Everything. And, remembering this, we look separate. It doesn't mean we are. Like I'm here in a separate phone box over in this, wherever I am, and you over there. And it just really seems like we're all separate. It helps me to think about it like the spokes on the wheel, like in the center, it is the one source, right? God. In the middle, we're all part of it. There's no one who's not part of that. We're all connected to the all that is. We all are, even when it doesn't seem that way.
Right. So you were, you mentioned this about 12, 15 years ago. Um, you headed in this new direction, feeling guided. Was the Course part of your life at that time, or was it a little later?
So it's really interesting. My entree into a lot of my personal growth work was with, people know Louise Hay, her work. My mom growing up would listen to her. I thought it was a little bit weird, but I'm like, all right. My mom would have me look in the mirror and like hug myself. Like this was 80s at its best. And I ended up getting into recovery from addiction program that was very focused on living a spiritual solution. Like the problem and the answer are spiritual, which is very much is very similar
Right.
to A Course in Miracles. And one of the women that I became friends with was very into Marianne Williamson. And I remember this was like in the 90s, early 2000s, we would like, we would read her work and some of that information. And I remember hearing about the course and thinking, oh, I should really read that. Like I should really, that sounds really good. And I had it, I would like pick it up. It was so intimidating. It's huge. It's a huge
Right.
book. So I put it back down, pick it up. And then actually, and I do believe this is one of the reasons my podcast was I was inspired to start it. I've met so many people that have helped me, not just hopefully the other people listening. One of my guests, it was Barbara Stanny Hewson, who's a course student and teacher who's used the course a lot in her books. I was interviewing her and she was talking all about the course, and I'm thinking, wow, this really feels true. I have got to, like, I want to find someone who can help me to study it. And I kept thinking that and just was too nervous to reach out to her. And then I read another one of her books and I got the download to reach out to her again, like a year or so later, had her back on my show. We talked all about the course. And I said afterwards, I am really intimidated. I really want to study this, but I do not know where to begin. And she was like, I'll help you. I'll work with you. We'll do it.
Right.
And this was about 3.5 years ago. So, I mean, I had definitely read other texts that are very similar, but that was the beginning. And it's just, it was like nourishment when you're starving, is the way it felt to me, like
Right.
when you're really thirsty. And I would never say I'm an expert. I just, I love it. I love reviewing it, reading lessons over and over, listening to different commentary, reflecting, looking at it from different angles. I got into other books. Alan Cohen, I had on, who's of Course in Miracles Made Easy. And then Gary Renard, I spoke to because I was like, oh my gosh, Gary, how did like that whole book, The Disappearance of the Universe, is kind of a woo, mind glowing. And
It's a
yeah,
game changer, isn't it?
it was a game changer. Yeah.
Because all of a sudden,
Yeah.
what we've been struggling with now makes sense.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I've read all of his books to date. I think he has a new one. There's maybe one that came out recently. I didn't, but I've read, 5 of his books,
Right.
and they just felt true. It felt true. And I go by, how does it feel in your body? There's a lot of wordiness in the course. And when you start to realize it's a lot of repetition and different ways of saying the same thing, that helped me. I also found people that I listen to that have just helped to kind of break it down and give it in a really just in layman's terms. And that's been helpful too. So yeah, I am so grateful. I feel like it found me exactly when I was supposed to really start it.
Right.
It's so funny, I had the book for a long time though. It just
Me too.
collected dust. You too? Yeah.
Um,
What was your
you
story like?
actually told my story a great deal.
Okay.
I've read, through the '80s, reading Wayne Dyer. Actually, reading Alan Cohn's earlier books before he even referenced *A Course in Miracles* back then. But I'd always hear references in the late '80s and then early '90s. And I've read Marianne Williamson's books. I've read John Mundy's books. Um, and then I thought, okay, I'm going to get the course and dive right in. And I bought it and I went, holy cow, this is too much. I just, um, I don't get it. It's not anything, the same principles that Marianne was talking about, but it seemed different. Um, but I stuck with it. I was planting seeds. And I was also on a very self destructive path of drinking. It's
Mm,
weird that I was very much into meditation and yoga. Um, I was doing breath work. I was reading, those great spiritual teachers. but I was also trying to destroy myself. But what I didn't realize was every time I dove into the course and then shoved it aside, I was planting a seed. And all those seeds were working to eventually bring me to the point where I was given an opportunity to quit drinking. Uh, Not in a way that I would have chosen, uh, but in a way that was presented to me. And in an instant, um, drinking left my life after over a decade. And that was 27 years ago now. And it's been a joyful path of sobriety. It makes me wonder now, why did I dislike myself so much back then?
Mm.
So I'm sure with you said, your struggle with addiction. Um,
Hmm.
and all addiction, uh, all addiction is one thing where basically I had Paul Hederman up yesterday, who's very much in the recovery movement. And he sums it up. All addiction is addiction of the ego. We are addicted to the ego. When you realize that, and when you see through it, you don't have to do a 12 step for the ego. Um, you just realize the ego is non-existent. It's an illusion. Um, Things start making sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to think like there's different kinds of addiction. For me, it was actually, I always joke, is through the kitchen door. Like I really struggled with food, with sugar, with abusing food. It was like a numbing agent. And what I've learned is, first of all, I could be addicted to a lot of things. So it's not just that. It could
Right,
be
right.
many, many things. I don't drink. There's a lot of things because I'm like, don't need to go there. I know my personality. But it really can be, it could be addiction to gossip. It could be addiction to feeling crappy about ourselves. It could be addiction to scrolling, to comparing, to substances that don't work, to whatever. I mean, there's a lot of, and to me, it comes back to what you were saying, that it's always the same thing. It's always believing the ego somehow is right.
You know, the those addictions that you were talking about, those are they're tough because I can leave alcohol behind. I can never go to a bar again. I can never go to the liquor store and buy anything. But you're always going to have to eat,
Yep.
and someone else is always going to have to deal with the everyday stuff that they might be addicted to. Someone who is addicted to online gambling um, is going to have to use a computer at work, and that temptation is always there unless you could try to grit your teeth and fight your way through it. But what do they call that? Dry sobriety, or where you're not doing what you were addicted to, but you're still fighting the addiction. Which is why you have people, 40 years in AA meetings, which is better than drinking, but is ultimately, I think, when you realize that you can give up the addiction of the ego, even just see through it, uh, you know, that addiction ceases to have its hold on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm actually very grateful. I grew up with a mom also in a program for overeating, and it opened her to Louise Hay, to Wayne Dyer, all these great, teachers. And I'm grateful in a way that door that opened is uncomfortable and challenging as that journey has been. And it's true. These the addiction for me is like they talk about 3 times a day you have to take the tiger out of the cage. Like it's
Right,
not
right,
like
right,
you can't eat.
right.
I do need to. So but I'm grateful that those moments of despair, of feeling not good enough, of thinking I was any of those beliefs. And this is the thing. And the way I've heard it been said is the ego is always going to speak loudest and first. So, these addictive behaviors, they prey and feed on the ego. They go hand in hand, right? The ego speaks loudest and first. We don't realize we're not our thoughts. So I think it's hopeless. I'm hopeless. I can't. I mean, all the things that it told me. And it actually was the work of really looking at, is that even true? Like, is that what the voice for God would say? Like, is that what, is that really my makeup? And it was that work that led me to here. So I'm always grateful for it. It's
Right.
we all come in the doors we come in. And I also believe you're right where you're supposed to be. So even if you have the book and it's getting dust on your nightstand, maybe this conversation's maybe it helps to inspire one person to just say, you know what? All right, I'm going to pick it up and start with lesson one. I'm just going to start with one.
And sometimes I think even if you're not a um, hardcore course student, if you get a couple lessons that you can pull out of your Monopoly card, get out of jail free, um, like Duff Fishman, who's been teaching forever, uh, told me to use lesson 25. I don't know what anything is for. Um,
Yeah.
and I probably read that lesson, literally hundreds of times. But when he gave it to me like a mantra, and I was able to see things so differently because I truly don't know what anything is for, but I keep insisting that I know that this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Um, and the truth is, I don't know because I don't know how it's going to play out. And my channel has been the result of this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. Um, and then I end up pivoting in a direction unexpected. And now I'm here having a beautiful conversation with you, Julie. And
Mm.
6 months ago, when something happened, and even staying the course forever, I would say, this is horrible. I can't believe this is happening. I've worked so hard to get here. Um, was exactly what I needed to do to have this conversation with you.
Mm. It's a really, really important point that you're making. This is where I think most of us get tripped up in life. I mean, this is a moment to moment practice for me. And it's really, of course, what is the definition of a miracle is a shift in perspective, right?
Right.
I think of it as putting like God lens on. So I don't have that, right? I mean, think about how we see. We see in front of us. We're not owls. We can't like turn our head 360. But I think of this, the divine, Christ light, God, whatever you call it, has got a 360 perspective and can see and know at all times what we don't know. So I don't know what this is for. It's humbling and it's true. You don't know. It could be the best lesson in the world for you. Probably is, right? Like I for myself, when I get up against these, oh my God, this is terrible, or what happened, or what did I do, or oh my God, it's like, no, 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 come back down into ground. I personally also love, I can see peace instead of this.
Right.
I love that. It's one of my favorites. I use it all the time. It's a perspective change, which is really what we're talking about. I don't know. It's kind of, I think of like the white flag goes up, surrender. I'm like, I don't know. I don't actually know what this is for. And this ended up being a gift. Whatever you were talking about, now we get to chat and you have many conversations. And so it's reminding ourselves the ego is going to always make us think that it does know what's happening. It's always going to shout and yell and try to convince. It's what it does.
We can even be thankful for our addictions when we think about it,
Yeah.
because, I mean, as I told you earlier and backstage, you're we can truly see that you are your special function right now.
Mm,
I can see in every one of your videos that you're doing it with this so much joy. Um,
yeah.
but had you not had that pivot moment uh, that started leading you in this direction, um, it would be nice if um, it was a little more gentle. But as they say, the script is written, and that this has already actually happened, and we're actually reviewing it. To me, that's a bit of a game changer too. Knowing that this has already happened and I'm reviewing it, and that I've chosen all of this. I chose my addiction. Um, I chose all those little moments when I thought this is horrible, um, and all of it was for a higher purpose.
Yeah. It's funny, my brain can't always get that, right? It's still at this day of like, oh yeah, okay. What helps sometimes, it's fascinating when you look at, the idea that actually everything is happening all at once, that there is no time and space. And you can see this in some of the quantum physics, some of the science that will support like, wow, there's something way bigger going on. I love that reminder that you said, because it also takes us out of any victim mode. It's like, something, like I think of it as earth school kind of thing, lesson plans. Like I already got that. Like this already happened. I'm here to like this is what we knew ahead of time. So
Right.
it's not a victim thing. Like there's actually, and I think there's a lot of empowerment actually when you really look at, how am I expanding now in this moment, knowing that? How can I look at this from a place where let's remember this because most people don't. And let me hold that certainty and remembrance that all is okay for everybody else because most people don't know that and remember that.
Right. Julie, would you be okay answering a couple questions from the chat?
Sure. I will do my best. Yes, of course.
Um, a friend wants to know, how committed do we have to be before we embark on the course? For example, I'm easily distracted or don't finish things properly. Can it be catered for similar like folk?
I love this question. And I just want to say, I think there's this belief that like these are like straight A students who you have to have gone to college. No, there's no prerequisite for this at all. What would I say is the impetus for it is desire. Do you want to have a life that feels more peaceful, more loving, more calm, at ease? Right. So, like, for me, I just felt like I know there's more going on and I want to be living in a place. I want to see peace instead of whatever I was seeing. So, how committed? I would say, and this, I am grabbing this from the 12 step world, but you could do this one day, one moment at a time. So, this doesn't have to be, there's a lot of different, look, a lot of ways to do the course. I've had a lot of people that I've talked to and friends that you go on the app and or you have the book and you read the lesson. I recommend finding somebody, whether it's a conversation here or someone on YouTube who does the one day at a time, one of the lessons every day, and just find somebody. There's some great teachers that just break it down and make it really fun. But I would say to bring that level of joy and fun. And so it can be very heady. There's a lot of words and a lot that it says. I definitely would say though, like be gentle with yourself and do one at a time. Like this is not about reading 10 lessons in a day. It actually
Right.
advises you not to do that. So many, 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 many people I know who are into the course get easily distracted. Absolutely. It's not like you have to be a straight A student to do this. Let your desire, let your heart, let your this intention guide you. I don't know. Thoughts that you have, Eric? What would you say? Because I think it's a great
Um,
question.
that was, yeah, it was a great question. That was a beautiful answer, Julie.
Thank
Um,
you.
I think the only thing um, that I would throw in there would be, uh, don't worry about understanding each lesson, because some people, that's like what I get almost every day. I don't understand this one, and you don't have to. Uh, there is part of you that understands it, that knows it. Trust that, and trust that when you come to another lesson, I always mention the course is holographic. So you might not get this one particular lesson, but you'll get another one, and then that lesson, the previous lesson, will all of a sudden make sense, and you'll, oh, now I get it.
I love that. Just to add to Eric, that was beautifully said too. And underneath that, it's like let go of attachment. We don't have to get it all. It's going to come. It's trusting. And I will tell you, there's also a to me a metaphysical kind of like attracts like, right? What Rumi said. What you're seeking is seeking you. So if you're here listening and you're writing this, there's some part of you that is like, I know that there's more for me here. Trust that. And I think for me, it's been a big trust experiment. Just trusting. I don't have to get it perfectly. I might miss a word. I might miss a thing. It's fine. trust me, you will get it over and over and over again in different ways. And like you said, it will be the part, whatever you need will be taken in. It will.
We have another question. How can I discern if a synchronicity is a genuine holy instant for my awakening or just another layer of ego projection?
Okay. So I love talking about synchronicity and intuition. It's one of my favorite topics. So here's what I would back up a little bit. And here's what I would say. Number one, my experience is intuition, the voice for God, the synchronicity. There's an energy to it, a signature to it that is calm. That is usually, it feels, calm is a good word, but quiet, kind of a deep knowing. It has a feeling of resonance. Fear is going to show up like judgment. It's going to show up like shame. It's going to show up like condemning, betrayal, like that family of qualities. So, if there's something that's happening and it's a berating you type of thing or judging you, that's ego. Fear and ego, I think, have been the same family, same thing. So, you want to tune into how are you feeling with that synchronicity or that sign or that intuition. How are you feeling now? When I woke up and had this realization and heard the voice, literally this voice said, "You are not aligned. You're not okay here anymore. Like it's time to change directions." It was very calm. It was very clear. It was very true. Did it bring up fear afterwards? Yeah. I had a moment of like, "Oh God, how am I gonna like, okay, wow, this is a bit like this felt true." And there were some emotions of kind of, wow, this is big. So it's not that fear may not show up, that's okay. But the actual message or the synchronicity, it's never going to have judgment. It's never going to have berating, shaming, anything like that ever. It's just not, it doesn't live in there. It's not possible.
Awesome. You know, I think claiming ownership is always a big thing for me. If I get if I follow a synchronicity to a great insight and I immediately lay claim to it, look what I've done. And I know that I've tapped into the ego quite a bit. Um, and it never turns out the way I had hoped it would or thought it would. Um, so I'm very careful with the, uh, oh, wow, look at me versus the, oh, wow, look. Um, it's, that subtle difference to me makes all the difference.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Um,
Agreed.
one more question here. In a world that demands constant logic based decision making, how do we build the confidence to act on intuitive nudges that may seem to contradict conventional wisdom? Before you answer that, um, I told you a lot of people were going to want to talk about the intuition and the guidance. So I'm glad you
Yeah.
get the opportunity to
Yeah.
address these.
Eric, can you read that one more time? Just the last,
Yep.
I want to make sure I got it.
In a world that demands constant logic based decision making, how do we build the confidence to act on intuitive nudges that may seem to contradict conventional wisdom?
Okay. This is a great one. So I believe what's hidden in plain sight is the most important discernment we have is our inner guidance, intuition, connecting. If you're reading the course, again, the voice for God, the Holy Spirit. Um, to me, I think of it as like, you remember those old games of telephone where you'd put like a can with I think of it as like there's a can with the string and I have one side and the Holy Spirit has the other, right? And I'm like listening, I'm trying to tune in because that is always going to be for the highest good. That's always going to be from something that's beyond what I can see. And often it's not logical or sensical. So our intuition and our inner guidance and thoughts come up about you know to take this class, to move, to make these decisions that may not always make sense. What we want to do is to learn how to build a relationship and trust that this guidance that's coming in, you know to build that kind of foundation where we can actually connect to it, hear it, feel it, sense it, see it. We're all different in how we take in information like that. But if you look at the brain, I'm just talking about, this is so interesting. Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, who's a friend of mine who wrote Whole Brain Living, and she did the Stroke of Insight TED Talk, big one.
Right.
And she looks at the brain. The left side of the brain is the logical, left thinking, linear side of the brain. We have the emotional and the thinking tissue. And I think of like, I think it's character two. It's the second, the emotional tissue of your brain, left side, that's connected to the ego, right? That's like, I think of it as like the 3-year-old that puts a tantrum up all the time. And literally, she's mapped this out. This is so interesting. And on the right side of the brain, um, we have the connection to this feeling that we're all in this together, and then the all that is, the divine. And the way that we take in information and make decisions, many of us are conditioned to only go to the left brain or only trust that when we're missing a whole field of information. Literally, all this information comes on the right side. So, just scientifically, I always think it's kind of interesting to see some of what we are talking about and know. It takes time and it takes building trust. And one of the things I do is keep a little running tab of just these decisions I've made or the voice for God that I've heard that did not make sense. But what happens when I am tuning in and listening, and it's never steered me wrong? And what's happened is over time, because I've been tracking it and watching that and really getting into it, I know, I just know now. I know to trust it. And so I can get guidance and it doesn't make sense. And I can know it's the right thing for me. And this is where we start to have a sense of real sovereignty and connection back to understanding that it's not our ego we want running the show.
Right. That brings me to a question about the clairs and your experiences with the clairs, and hearing that voice for God. That have you found that maybe since starting the course that your experiences with the clairs have deepened and maybe took a turn away from uh, still guiding you in the outer world, but becoming more of a intuitive inner spiritual world guidance system?
It's a great question. I think for me, so these clairs or these ability to see, to hear, to know, to feel, like it's always been something that's been there. I really pushed it down, and thought it was quite woo, and we like I just didn't give a lot of
Right.
attention to it, and it just wasn't really in my vernacular, especially growing up near just in an intellectualized type of environment, school, all of that. I do think what has been really cool is in studying the course, there's so much focus on like really getting that relationship with the Holy Spirit, with the voice for God, that I think of intuition is really connected to that. And it's like given me permission. I think I was already starting to feel that and sense that and give myself permission, but at a different level, like, oh, this is a thing. This is actually true. And we all can connect to it in our own way. And there's no right or wrong. We all have different ways of connecting. It has definitely opened up, though. I would say these channels have just opened and opened and opened. So where I was maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it feels like it's just compound interest. Like every
Right.
year I'm like, wow, that's incredible. It's and then I believe we all have these batteries included. It comes with attention, intention, and just showing up and really making space to be present and listen.
Right. And the even in the manual for teachers, they talk about that. The psychic gifts, um, and they can be very useful, but we don't want to. And you alluded to this earlier. We just don't want to be attached to them. They're a gift, and when you're given that gift, you don't claim it. These are mine. Uh, you enjoy them. You use them. You find that it allows you to be a greater service for people, which is basically what you do as an intuitive coach. You're using it to be in service to
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, so my prayer, my going back to the first thing we started to talk about, really my daily prayer. One of my daily prayers is, God, please help me to be useful today. Help me to be a walking blessing. Help me to to shine. I think of it as light, to reveal more light through me. That's you. Help me to be helping others to remember that they're not separate. We're not separate, and use me. So I am offering myself in that way and very intentionally saying, if those gifts are going to be helpful, then use them. If not, fine. And I think that question earlier about, how do you know if it's your ego or if it's really intuition? I do feel it's intention, right? It's like setting the intention, and I can feel it. I can feel it when it's like, oh, I want to have the answer versus I am just getting the answer or the sense.
Right.
It's always the intention, though. And I think if anyone just sets the intention of help me to be helpful, your life is going to be so blessed. I can't even tell you. Like blessings are multiplied when we ask to be a blessing. That's one way to say it, I guess.
Um, we have another question coming up. Before I ask this question, um, channeling. Uh, it's is this something that you've experienced? Like, is it recent, or has it been, something, one of those other gifts that you sort of shoved aside because it might have been scary, or you know, you thought it was just a little too out there?
So I have a thought about this that might be a little counterculture, but I'm just going to say it because we're having this conversation. I really believe, first of all, we all have the ability to channel. The question is, what channel are we on?
Oh wow,
Like, what are we channeling? Right. So, like, I really think of that. We all have the ability to connect into something greater or to our ego. And the ego, we know what that sounds like. We could do a whole course on that. What I have found is when I am in a state of calm, peace, connection, feeling grounded, it is very easy for me to feel and sense a very high vibration that speaks through me, that feels like it's with me. That is something I have felt for a long time. But what I would say is that it's increased the capacity to do that, has increased really over the last probably 5 or 6 years. I started my podcast about 8 years ago. And the more that I've like, been directed towards the course and spirituality and channeling, it feels like the way I can explain it is this channel that I'm talking about, whether it's a name that comes out, like an angel's name, or sometimes there are names we know that are used, or in Helen Schuckman's example, I mean, Helen channeled Jesus, like
right,
literally probably one of the best channeled works we have. I don't know that she ever knew she was able to do that, right? And there was a deep desire to create peace between her and Bill. And so I do believe when our intention is to have forgiveness, to have healing, to change, to transform, to be helpful, we're going to be given gifts and abilities and ways to do that that are beyond just what we think who we are. I don't think most of us realize the power, the beautiful gifts and power within us. So for me, the more that I remember, oh yeah, I'm divine by design. Oh yeah, God speaks, the voice for God speaks in me, through me. The more I make an effort to look through the lens of the miracle lens, of the perspective of there I can see peace here, or I love this one. When I sometimes I get a little scared flying, and I'll just say, like, my holiness blesses the plane.
right.
My holiness blesses the situation. Like, all of us, we're all sons, daughters of God, like, period, full stop. So that ability to bring in higher consciousness, or that voice, it's felt much easier. And sometimes it often, for me, it doesn't have a label. There have been times where I have felt the whoa. I worked with somebody and actually did an episode on this and brought in Archangel Michael, and I could feel it, very different than a different being that I brought in. I still think it's important not to get caught in the weeds. We're all connected to
Right.
the one creator, all loving. And so I just can say this, that ability to really feel love come through you and speak as you, I believe we all have access to that. I just do.
I've had several people come up who channel either Mother Mary or another aspect of the divine feminine. And that seems vital in this day and age to channel the divine feminine. That um, we need we need to hear that voice. We've lost complete contact with it, the majority of us. Um, and I don't think it's a coincidence that more and more people are stepping forward, um, hearing that voice, including uh, men. We are, next month I have Clark Strand um, coming up, and he's going to talk about uh, Anna Perdita Finn, his partner, his wife. They're going to talk about invoking the divine feminine using the rosary. Um, so really looking forward to that. If you get an opportunity to talk with them, um, I think you'd really love it.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about. Is that Perdita's husband that you're talking
Yes.
about?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
You know, I think, look, to remember, we are all having our own perspective of this life experience, right? Our soul in body form. And so who we channel, who we connect to, the way that that shows up, kind of going back to what you said, Eric, there's an aspect that this is already written. And I look at it like we're just scratching the surface of really getting the divinity, like God is in each of us and that we're all connected. We're all from that one.
Right.
And so to me, channeling those higher um that energy that it feels like love. It just feels like love that comes through, and it's going to sound different in each person, right? Because we all have our way of speaking. It's just I don't think it's that, how would I say this? I think people can make a lot about it, like that person can channel and this can't. No, we all have the potential to tap in and to speak of love. It's just going to sound how it sounds from me, from you, and you'll know because you feel blissful, you feel joyful, you feel light, peaceful. Those are some of the qualities, right? Ego is going to make you feel shame and guilt and judge. That is not what I'm talking about.
Right. Julie, have you taken a dive into A Course in Love?
I have not. That's interesting. No, I know a little bit about it, but I have not.
It's in some course communities, it can be a little controversial depending on who you talk to.
Yeah.
Um, but it really does make that um, the journey from the head to the heart a little bit shorter. Um, and it struck me when you were talking about love
Mm,
and being that channel for love. Um, that sometimes we do get so caught up in the head and the logical thinking, and that we can't, that channel is impossible, that maybe some people have the gift, but others don't.
yeah,
Um, but when we can open up that path to the heart, really everything's possible.
exactly. Reminds me, one of the teachers I've studied with has said, the Course in Miracles is actually not a course on love. It is a course on everything that is getting in the way of
Oh
expressing
wow.
and
Right.
experiencing love. Which it's funny, I think it's all there, right? So we look at where am I holding grievances? Where am I holding resentments? Where am I judging? And understanding, when we talk about forgiveness, it's not the forgiveness we typically think of. It's a complete shift in perspective. It's the forgiveness that says that person is me. I am them. We are literally like there is no separation. And that is something to practice. I'm gonna tell you right now, that's not always easy, but it is life changing.
Um, outside of the course, what other practices do you have? Meditation.
Yeah. So I always start my morning with meditation. I'm a huge fan of the binaural beats or hemisync,
Yep.
something like that. Sometimes quiet. I am trained in Reiki, so I'll always I will do distant Reiki. And if you're not trained in Reiki, the best thing you can do, I believe, is just put your hands on your heart. That's it. You don't have to be trained. I try to go to bed and wake up like that. And then I usually do a little practice where I send distant Reiki to the world, to myself, to family, to people that are struggling with health or well being, and then the world. And I think we can do this at any time. You don't have to be Reiki trained to send love. I try to do some intuitive journaling and usually read something inspiring. The course. I have other things as well, and really to just set the day that way. I find that what you focus on first is going to expand. I believe that,
Right.
so
Um,
it's important
Good.
for me. Yeah.
What you focus on first, especially in the morning, is very important. I have found what I focused on last is equally as important. What I take to bed with me, the seeds that I plant that'll blossom in the next day. So I always try to do contemplative reading. Uh, for one, it helps me sleep because I'm not reading anything exciting. I've been reading the course for so long that, it's not a page turner. It never was a page turner, but, you know, it now it's a companion. So when I read the course or another great spiritual text that I'm very familiar with, it really feels like I'm planting those seeds in my subconscious mind. It helps slow the brain down, and I take it into my subconscious, and um, it has actually helped me. Several years ago, you actually had a video about this. Several years ago, out of the blue, uh, not really out of the blue, I was caregiver for my father who was dying with congestive heart failure.
Mm.
Um, and anxiety, and that led to panic attacks, and that led to insomnia. And here I was teaching people, with yoga and my meditation instructor, how to navigate through that. And the video that I saw of you actually just today, and I forget who you were talking to about imposter syndrome. Um, because what kind of yogi am I? What kind of student of A Course in Miracles am I? Yeah, I'm suffering from anxiety. I've been a course student at this time for 25 years. And out of the blue, anxiety, panic attacks, insomnia. Um, but it was that the practice of the contemplative reading that really helped me guide me through those moments of anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, thank you for sharing that. I think there's this misconception that, like, I've been studying for this long, like I shouldn't have anxiety. I shouldn't be suffering or having things come up. And this is where, for me, it's like, wait a minute, how might this be exactly a way to practice the course? Like,
Right.
how can I, ego is going to look for every single way to get in and judge us and make us feel like we're doing something wrong. And it's like, actually, that could be a moment of, how do I apply this companion, this course, this brilliance, so that I don't let the ego run the show.
It's all teachable moments, isn't it?
All teachable moments. Absolutely.
Like everything that we go through. That might be the greatest gift I think the course gives us.
Yeah. Absolutely. Nothing is wasted. There are times I'm like, does this really have to be one? Yeah, this is one to look at. Yes, they all are. Yeah. Everything. Everything is an opportunity to bring it to love, to bring it to forgiveness.
I'm glad you said forgiveness. We're Because we're going to be wrapping up soon. I know you have just about an hour, and we are about 54 minutes in. Um, and there's no better way to close a conversation with A Course in Miracles than talking about forgiveness and the active role that forgiveness plays in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so this is the one this is it. this is everything. I mean, and you do not have to go look far, far wide to find a subject to bring the concept of forgiveness to. For me, it's a gift to practice this. It's not always easy. It's simple, but not always easy. And it's something that, again, this is where I use that lesson. I could see peace here instead of this. That's one of the ones that helps me. But to get that anytime I'm disturbed, to remember it's the lens of the ego. Anything, or the lens of the ego saying I'm separate. And so, to me, at the very like root of it, Eric, is remembering we're not separate. We're actually not separate. And that's, to me, like, if I can get to that point and really get the person that I think did this to me, that I'm not seeing it through the eyes of God there, right? And not to condemn yourself, but to look at it and say, okay, all right, how can I apply forgiveness here? And not just, oh, I grant you my forgiveness. That's not what we're talking about. But we're all mirroring and projecting everyone, at the basic level, it's all a projection. It's all
Right.
a projection. So how can I regain what I think is true and really see it as a projection, is to forgive it and realize it's not true. It's not true.
And that's everything, isn't it? Because if there's no hypocrisy and illusion, so we can't say, well, this is illusion, but this is very real.
That's right.
So we're literally forgiving everything.
Yeah.
Um, I was forgiving the anxiety. I was forgiving the insomnia. I was forgiving the panic attack. The hardest thing was forgiving that imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
because our own judgment and our own guilt seems to be the hardest thing to let go of.
Yeah. And that's the spot. To me, I bet you the greatest growth and miracle was there, that hardest spot, the imposter syndrome. Because somewhere underneath there's a feeling of not good enough or separation, and you forgot.
Right.
A lot of people, it's very easy to go running when we get to those territories because it's not easy. However, I do find we can build a muscle that eventually you can get a new frame, a new lens. It's like, you know what? Bring it on. Illusion. I don't want to be living in illusion. I don't know about you. I don't want to be living in illusion. Let's try to remind myself of that as much as humanly possible,
Right. Right. Um,
or
that
from
struck me.
illusion, I should say.
That struck me as a very, very important insight for me to carry with me. I'm often reminded that, you know, I always think I'm bringing up a guest to talk to as many people who show up and offer as much as they can, as much as people are able to soak in. And every so often with a guest, I realize that actually they had something really important to share to me,
Mm,
uh, that I get to take to heart and carry long after our conversation. And the last thing that you said is just one of those moments where I feel that I was truly
mm.
given a gift.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. I feel like this conversation has been doing that for me too, but I'm so happy to hear that it might be this reminder, like my intuitive senses, there's a remembrance, like, oh yeah, that whole imposter, like, there's no truth there. There's no truth. It's not true.
Um, so I'm going to ask you one last thing
Sure.
before you go, and this is from my partner who's been very insistent.
Okay.
So I need to get this question. Would Julie be willing to go through a quick sending love practice so we can see and feel how easy it is? And that, I think, would be a beautiful way of ending tonight's live stream if you would just
Yeah.
do
Oh,
that little sending love practice.
I love it. Let's do it. Let's all do it together. Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for asking. I love that. Absolutely. And I'm just going to say this, do not underestimate, everyone now watching later, the power of your connection to your heart and to one another, and remembering that we're all here together. This is I think of as divine appointment, and that we have power in coming from love, major power, like wonderful healing power. So Yes. Okay. I'm going to just invite everyone to put your hand or your hands on your heart. If you're comfortable to close your eyes, to just close your eyes and let your shoulders come down. We're going to begin to slow our breath, taking a nice long inhale through the nose. Imagine filling up with light and exhaling through the mouth like you're blowing out of a straw. This time, imagine as you're inhaling the sensation, the feelings of peace, of unity, community, and love. Exhale, even greater peace and love. And feel your energy start to lift and shift, maybe even imagining beautiful light as you inhale, coming all the way up your spine into your heart, all the way up through your crown and your head, and back down again through your spine to your base of your pelvic floor. And with each inhale, bringing that light up higher, and with each exhale, bringing that light lower. Feeling the holiness that is you, the sacred breath that is breathing you. You might even connect now to the statement, my holiness blesses this moment. My holiness blesses everyone. I am this peace. Just notice whatever you feel. And let this energy expand in your heart and your body. Feeling grounded down to your toes and feet. Feeling this energy move down into the earth. And feeling your holiness disperse down into Mother Earth, adding to the nourishment and the love. And maybe imagining like a root system, all of us, wherever we may be, our roots connecting under the earth, sharing with other roots of other beings, people, trees, other beings on this planet, sending love through our root system, that impulse of love, that remembrance that we're all of the same one, that we're not separate. And then pull that energy back up through your belly to your heart, all the way up through your crown, your top of your head, and maybe imagining it go all the way up into the sky, to the cosmos, the stars, and feeling those stars connect all over the earth, feeling that light high above guiding us, and then remembering we are that bridge in the middle, always connected to the voice for God, always connected to the highest love possible. And we'll take a few more breaths together. Inhale again, all the way from your roots, all the way up to the top, the stars. Inhale with that light and let it come all the way down through your body. Exhale, two more like that. Inhale, peace. And exhale that peace to all beings on earth and beyond. Inhale, greater compassion, love, awareness, forgiveness. And exhale anything that is not that, let it go. Notice your body, notice your mind, notice the love that is permeating in your cells, in your energy, in your field, in your memory, in your consciousness. And even in this illusion, we remember what is true cannot necessarily be seen, but is here. And that is infinite love, God presence, God force, always with us, as us. Slowly opening your eyes as you feel ready. And then coming back to this present moment and just noticing, maybe even sharing in the comments how you feel, what you noticed.
Beautiful. We are getting a lot of love sent your way in the comments. Lots
Aw,
of heart spams.
thank you.
Um, so, Julie, I know that you have a family engagement, so I don't want to keep you. I very much appreciate the time that you spent here. Um, would you be interested in maybe coming back sometime?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This has been so fun, so joyful. I'm just praying that it was helpful. That's always the goal. And I think all of your beautiful community members, I mean, brothers and sisters, we're all connected, right? We're all part of the same family. So
Okay.
great to meet soul brothers and sisters I didn't know. Maybe I did know. And absolutely love to come back.
Very, very quickly.
Sure.
Um, a friend said how lovely. Um, my partner, Kat, said overwhelmed to tears with love. Thank you.
Oh,
Our friend Anna Marie said that was beautiful. Selma, a really good friend of ours, says, I love you, Julie. Um, Kat says, thank you, please come back. And we love you, so helpful. So never doubt, Julie. You are doing beautiful things in the world, and it is felt and it's experienced. Um, and I was, um, I had wanted to ask you to come up for a while, and I kept hesitating. It was a little, as I said, little not intimidated. But I know, uh, I see your work, and I know that you are engaged in so many different things with so many different people, um, and the absolute uh, lovingness and loveliness in which you said yes, and every single doubt, and I knew that it was going to be a wonderful conversation. So thank you.
thank you so, so much. Thank you for all the beautiful feedback. And I always love to say, whatever, you see in me is in you, and vice versa. We are all a mirror. And so, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing for this beautiful platform and community that you've inspired so many people to tune into and that you've been inspired to do. And thank you for letting me be part of it. It's a gift. Truly. Thank you.
I appreciate that, guys. I'll see you at 5 o'clock in the morning. Take care.